Hi, it is June 22nd today, which is week 4. I missed the last 2 weeks because of finals and we were on a road trip in Eastern Washington. So there are a lot of changes this week from the last time that you saw my garden, and we'll just start by going around and looking at everything. So the herbs are still doing great. We've been using tons of them and they just keep coming on back. I got this blueberry bush, and luckily it has these berries on it already because the woman at the nursery told me that if you don't have 2 different varietals, it can't cross-pollinate. So next year I'll have to get one if I want to have berries on it, but this one already has them. My strawberry plants are huge, and we've been eating a few strawberries lately. And there are even more coming on. Maybe not on this one. So there's a tiny one. And there's a couple red ones over here. This one will be ready to eat, probably later today. And then there's this one, which is super weird looking. I wonder what makes them turn out like that as opposed to like a normal strawberry. The raspberries have also been doing well. We've been eating them, and as you can see, there are lots that are about ready to eat soon too, and some small ones that'll come on later. So one thing that I want to show you is my strawberry runners. So this is how strawberries propagate in the wild. They send out runners like this, and then when they touch down with the ground, you can see there are little teeny tiny roots starting to form there, and when they touch down with soil they make longer roots. But since these buckets are sitting on top of pavers, they can't put down roots naturally, so I've been starting them in plant pots. So we can look at this one here. It's got some pretty big roots now, and the runner has actually put on a flower of its own. So this one's big enough that I think maybe later today I'll cut it free from the big plant just by trimming it here. That way it can be independent, and hopefully it'll kind of root better in the soil when it doesn't keep getting yanked away, because Luke, the garden dog, likes to knock over my buckets. And then I've got another one here. These other ones I might just trim off instead of trying to propagate them in pots, because they suck energy away from the main plant. These are my lilies. When they started coming up earlier this spring, these little, I wasn't sure what plant they were, and then eventually I saw, and I knew that it was going to be a lily plant, but I didn't realize that it was going to be these really dark red lilies. They're kind of beautiful. Up here on the porch we've got just the mint is doing great. I still haven't potted another new plant, but they're so hardy that it's really hard to kill them anyway. It's almost an experiment to see how far I can make it go before I have to repot it. Also, my apple trees are still hanging out. But what's really interesting is my tomato plants are doing great. See, they've got, this one's just got lots of flowers. No little proto-tomatoes yet. And this one too. These ones are the paste tomatoes, which are kind of bigger, and they weren't necessarily bred for a cold climate. Like, they'll do fine here, but I think that they're just going to take a little bit longer because unlike this one here, which is called a Galena, those weren't bred for Siberia, whereas this one was. So you can see this one is a really early season tomato, and it's got this really big one, which is starting to lighten up. I think it's going to start changing color soon, and it's got a couple other small tomatoes on it. This is my Thai basil, and the sweet peas here are starting to vine, and some of them are starting to drape over the edges. But so this plant came up really fast, and I was really excited about it, but as it turns out, it's obviously not Thai basil. I think somehow a lettuce seed got mixed in with the basil seeds. I'm not sure how that happened because they came right out of the seed packet, but maybe I'll transfer it and see if it grows, and then we'll have celery. But the actual basil is getting its true leaves now, and here pretty soon I'll need to thin them out. So I'll just go ahead and pull this guy out. He's never gonna make it. This is the Italian basil, and it's got its true leaves now too, so these will start getting thinned out as well soon. So excited for pesto. This is sage, which took a long time to finally poke up through the ground, but you can see it's doing just as well as the basil, if not a little bit better, so I wonder if maybe it might not mind the shade so much. We've got thyme, and these ones came up really fast, but they're really taking their time on developing the true leaves. You can see some of them are starting to get them, but they're so tiny. And then the sweet peas are doing great here. These ones are the ones that are starting to drape over the edge now. Alright, so we're going to head down to the corner plot. The tomatoes down here are also doing, I think, much better than I could have hoped for. So we've got this really big one here. This is the same variety that we looked at up on the porch, and they're obviously really well suited to this weather. We've got this enormous squash plant. This is way more luck than I ever had with squash last year. I think maybe the tree is keeping it from getting too wet when it rains, so it's not developing the mildew on the leaves. This is my cucumber plant. Can you see the cucumbers from there? There's one there, and there's also one down here. And you can see there are some other flowers on here too, so I think it'll grow more. Now my challenge is trying to get it to go up this stage. I'm trying to trellis it, but it doesn't seem to want to grab on right now, so I think I'm going to try some zip ties. Here we've got another cucumber plant. It's got some little proto-cucumbers on it, so I'll be watching. I might try hand pollinating these to make sure that they get pollinated. That way they develop into an adult cucumber. These aren't actually cucumbers yet, they're just basically the plant ovary, and they still need fertilized by the male flower. Here is another squash plant, and this one has a squash developing on it now. You can see there, it's so fuzzy, it's so cute. Also, I think the last time I shot a video I was talking about how that tomato, the big one that we looked at over there, was fuzzy. It's not fuzzy anymore, so I wonder what's up with that. These are more of the paste tomatoes like we talked about up there that kind of have the longer season, take longer to develop. And as you can see, these ones do have tomatoes on them now. And I think, so they're under the tree, so it's really shady, which had me really worried, but I think that they're doing really well because they're right by the road, which is an amazing heat sink. It's dark and it's big and it's made of rock, so it's essentially like an enormous heat sink. And I think that's why these tomatoes and even the squash plants too are doing so well here, even though it's shady. Then here at the front, we've got a whole bunch of flowers. I've got some more sweet peas planted here, but they're not doing as well as the ones up in the basket. And I've got zinnias and marigolds, but I also have nasturtiums, which haven't started to flower yet, but I'm sure that they will because the soil isn't super nutritious soil, and actually nasturtiums prefer soil that's not very nutritious. They prefer to be kind of deprived of nutrients to send up flowers. I want to focus more on the things that I have here at the house because I think that it's a better demonstration of of container gardening and what you can do in a small space, and when you're living somewhere that you're going to be moving out of soon and you don't want to put down too many roots. But I do want to show you my community garden because it's awesome. This is my pea patch plot that I share with another woman who's actually a master gardener, so I feel like I'm really lucky in that regard. These are her plants of the and these are mine. I'm growing mostly the same things that I'm growing at home, so I won't spend too much time talking about them, except to say that my tomato plants here are doing at least as well as the ones at home. And you can see maybe, here they are. There are 5 on this one little branch right now. So there's that, and then I have some squash that are doing really well. And then that's a really big nasturtium one that just kind of volunteered itself. So that's really great. Free nasturtiums. By the way, did you know that you can eat nasturtium flowers? They're apparently kind of spicy and they make a great addition to salads, so I'll be trying that out soon. The other thing that I wanted to say is you might notice that some of my plants look a little bit scraggly, like they're not doing so great. When I started gardening in this plot, I was told that the soil here wasn't really great, and so I should have known right away that I needed to amend the soil with some fertilizer, but you know, with busyness and whatnot, I didn't get around to it for quite a while, and I finally got around to side dressing my plants with a mixture of alfalfa meal, blood meal, and calcium. The limestone. So hopefully in the next little bit they start to perk up a bit from the fertilizer. And the way that I side dress my plants is to just loosen the soil alongside the plant and mix a couple tablespoons of my mixture into the soil and then cover it back up again and then water it. The water activates the water-soluble nutrients, and the fact that it's buried in the ground near the roots means that the roots are able to absorb it and it doesn't run off to places that you don't want it so much. So this is the community garden. Since it's mostly the same plants that I have at home, I won't necessarily come up here that often to show you guys. I wanted to take the time to show everybody what an amazing resource a community garden can be, and if you can kind of just take a look around, there are so many plots here. There's so much space available to the community to help us grow our own food, and so even if you have absolutely zero space at your apartment, you should look into what your city has in the way of community garden plots. So if you are growing stuff, I hope it's going great, and I'll see you next time.